Okay, May, the recording and transcription have started.
Wonderful. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Anime Fout, and I would like to welcome you to our training on accessible educational materials and assistive technology. I will be training on assistive educational materials and vision technology. So a little bit about myself. My name is Anime Fout, and I am a wife, mother, and certified teacher of the visually impaired. I've worked extensively with all exceptionalities throughout my career, and I am excited to be working here with the West Virginia Department of Education and the West Virginia Technical Assistance Center for Accessibility and Transitions. Today we will have several speakers, myself and the programmer, the coordinator of accessible educational materials, and also speech language pathologists and all related service providers, and also Mr. Pisnu Boyam, who is the acting director for Department of Rehabilitation Services, who will be speaking with you on transitions as well. This is my contact information. It's on the slide as well, and this slide will be in the files and also in as well. So what is accessible educational materials? So accessible educational materials is defined as educational materials that are print and technology based, including textbooks and related core materials that are designed or enhanced in a way that makes them usable across the widest range of learner variability, regardless of format: print, digital, graphic, audio, video. And that's from accessible educational materials, which our state happens to partner with as well for an accessible educational materials pilot. We are part of the AEM state cohort, and so we have several other cohorts or states, that are also part of the cohort: North Carolina, Georgia, New Hampshire, to name a few. So the accessible educational materials, the AEM Center. The goal of our center is to use and increase the availability of high quality accessible educational materials and technologies for learners with disabilities across their lifespan. So learning birth through 3, kindergarten through 12th grade, higher education, and workforce development. So we have 3 tiers of technical assistance. We have the universal technical assistance, which is openly available to all through our website, which will soon be viewed. Online resources, webinars, the AEM Cafe, conference presentations, email, and phone. We have targeted technical assistance, which is responsive to the needs of specific stakeholder groups: early childhood, higher ed, and workforce development. And then technical assistance, which is customized and frequently provided to improve K-12 systems. And we also have the AEM cohort states, which includes Georgia. So with the AEM pilot, we also have 7 quality indicators for the provision of accessible educational materials and technologies. This ensures that all students have access to materials and technologies for learners who have disabilities. And the purpose of the quality indicators are that there is a coordinated system for provision of accessible educational materials and technologies, acquisition and provision in a timely manner, which means at the same time as their same age peers, written guidelines, comprehensive learning opportunities and technical assistance, and systematic data collection process, using the data to guide changes, and making sure that we have the resources in order to procure those materials. So the Technical Assistance Center, we are located at the West Virginia Schools for the Deaf and Blind campus, and we are the Technical Assistance Center for accessibility and transitions. And so we support district staff who work with students that require modifications to access the curriculum. Our mission is to educate, train, guide, and support district administrators, educators, related service providers, and families to build understanding, implement practices, and transition from birth to post-secondary for students with access exceptionalities. Our vision is to improve educational equity for students with access exceptionalities by providing educational materials, assistive technology, transition, and support wide through training and technical assistance to district staff. Here at the TAC, as we like to call ourselves, we work collaboratively with many different agencies to support eligible individuals from birth to adult. All of these agencies are housed within our TAC building here. So we have West Virginia Birth to 3. We have the Instructional Resource Center, which provides materials to those with access exceptionality, specifically with regards to visual impairments. And then we have Outreach. We also have the Division of Rehabilitation Services. We have the Eastern Panhandle Instructional Cooperative, West Virginia Adult Ed, and Spokes, which is Skills for Life, and this is more workforce development. So we have our team of experts here. And so our executive director is Marianne Clendenin. And we have a deafblind coordinator, which is Miss Debbie Adams, and she is housed here. She's also the director of the Instructional Resource Center. We have Miss Leanne Brammer, who is our coordinator and also a speech-language pathologist. We have myself, who is a state AEM program specialist. We have speech language pathology support by Miss Elizabeth Simmons, and we have a coordinator of early and elementary learning, who is Miss Ginger Huffman. And here are their contact information. So we also have an accessible educational materials lending library, and a portion of the funding for the AEM and AT lending library at the Technical Assistance Center for Accessibility and Transitions was provided through an agreement between the West Virginia Department of Education, Office of Federal Programs, Special Education, Technical Adult Education, and the West Virginia Department of Commerce and the Division of Rehabilitation Services. We are a comprehensive center. We serve all students under IDEA, whether they are deaf and hard of hearing, blind, low vision, deaf blind, have specific learning disabilities, or have access disabilities such as communication, motor skills, computer access, organizational, reading, and mathematics. We provide professional development, training opportunities, technical assistance, interventions, and resources. We have a multi-tiered system of support. So we have our universal system of support, which is our website, webinars, resources, and contact information. We have our targeted system of support, which is our help desk, trainings for staff on devices, programs, and supports for helping students. And we provide support for all 3 platforms, including Windows, Mac, and iPads through iOS and Chromebooks. We also have intensive services, which are multi-day trainings for staff, mentoring and coaching on best practices, and personalized trainings. We do all of this through the Universal Design for Learning, which provides a framework in learning environments. It offers concrete suggestions that can be applied across disciplines to ensure that all learners can have equal access and participate meaningfully and be challenged in learning opportunities. This website on the UDL guidelines at cas.org is a wonderful resource for anyone that has questions about the Universal Design for Learning and how it can be utilized in the classroom. Educational materials, AEM, is required by law. So West Virginia adopted the National Instructional Materials Accessibility Standard, or NIMAS for short, for the purposes of providing instructional materials to blind persons or other persons with print disabilities in a timely manner after the publication of the NIMAS in the Federal Register. In 1996, the Chaffee Amendment added that other persons with certain physical impairments also had access to standard print works. In 2018, the Marrakesh Treaty Implementation Act made some changes to the wording such that accessible format and eligible person were added. It also contains that a medical doctor is no longer required to certify individuals with reading disabilities. So, to summarize, in IDEA, it gives us instructions on what the state must provide for students with providing instructional materials to blind persons or other persons with print disabilities. It establishes a state definition of what a timely manner is, and it works with the NIMAC, or we secured another avenue of providing materials to those persons within a timely manner. We work with the NIMAC, and our state also works with Bookshare, and for those that has purchased Learning Ally, we also work with them as well. Provides guidance on administration and provision of assistive technology. Every Student Succeeds Act refers to students being served using the Universal Design for Learning, UDL, and provides assurances that ensure success for students and schools and upholds critical protections for low-incidence students. Section 504 requires school districts to provide qualified students free and appropriate public education, which includes providing access to materials. Section 508 is the information and technology and must be fully accessible to those with physical, sensory, and cognitive disabilities. This applies to electronic and information technology, so computer hardware, software, websites, multimedia, which includes videos, phone systems, and copiers. With that, Section 504 has recently somewhat been tweaked a little. So if a student has a 504 plan and meets copyright criteria, they would be eligible to receive AEM. That is because there is most recent changes to IDEA via the Chaffee and Marrakesh Treaty. So students that require AEM but do not have an IEP are still eligible for some services, including those with specific learning disabilities or access disabilities. So make sure that you review those students as well, because they may also qualify now for accessible educational materials. So timely manner. IDEA requires that we define timely manner. So West Virginia defines this to mean that all students receive their instructional materials, including accessible materials, at the same time as other students, and all reasonable efforts must be made by the local education agency to acquire accessible materials. Eligible students are defined as students that have a need to access educational materials and are unable due to visual, auditory, physical, perceptual, reading, and/or learning disability. And AEM should be considered for all the environments in which the student interacts. This includes the classes that published materials are used, community-based programs, 4-H, sports, etc., and home. An eligible students are eligible to receive accessible and educational materials when they have the following disabilities and have a documented need for access to print materials: deaf and hard of hearing, blind, low vision, deaf, blind, specific learning disabilities, or students with access disabilities such as communication, motor skills, computer access, organizational, reading, and mathematics. Here are some characteristics of what you might see in the classroom. So, does a student have vision or use visual skills, or have trouble with those? How about trouble with reading skills, motor skills, and physical stamina? Are they getting tired when they're reading or when they're engaging in their classwork? Expressive and receptive language skills, listening skills, and memory. Again, this is not a comprehensive list, and if the student is struggling to access their materials, please consider reviewing if the student will need accessible education materials. And here is a link to considering full learning on the AEM CAST website. So to go more in depth, some consideration to look for: students who are blind or visually impaired. They cannot read text-based materials and will need alternative ways to access educational materials. Additionally, some students who are not visually impaired, as defined by IDEA, may have visual field or visual tracking deficits, which affect their ability to use printed text. We also have reading disabilities. So students with reading disabilities, such as dyslexia, experience barriers to reading text-based materials without supports or alternative means for accessing the content. A student's ability to hold books and turn pages should be considered, as well as strength and physical stamina to read for long periods of time. A student's language skills affects his or her ability to understand text-based materials and should be considered. A student's ability to listen and remember what is heard through listening should be considered. Formal and informal tests of listening comprehension, auditory memory, and other listening skills may be used. Considerations for a student with a disability who is learning English include the extent to which the student comprehends information through varied formats and media. And a student's short-term and long-term memory abilities should be considered by the team. In our IEP process, there is a blurb at the bottom of the consideration page. During this time, AEM is to be considered and discussed when reviewing the IEP. At the bottom of the page, there's a link that takes you directly to the AEM guidance document. An AEM is to be considered for all students that have an IEP. Not every student with an IEP will require AEM. However, it is best practice that a discussion ensue regarding this. So the Technical Assistance Center for Accessibility and Transition, specifically with regards to AEM and vision technology, these are some of the trainings that we have available to train your staff on. Bookshare, read and write, quite expensive. To just give you a few, Bookshare makes reading easier. People with dyslexia, blindness, cerebral palsy, and other reading barriers can customize their experience to suit their learning style and find virtually any book they need for schoolwork or the joy of reading. And so you can access this who can access this? Those that are blind and have low vision, perceptual reading disability, and a physical disability that limits them accessing text. What does it provide? It provides customizable access to virtually any book a student may need to access. This includes textbook, work references, and books for enjoyment. You can also change some of the reading preferences. So students need larger font, size, color. They need their words highlighted as they're reading, or if they need it read aloud to them. Other choices such as Braille, audio, Word, and digital publications. And there are many more options. Students can access this, tablets, Chromebooks, computers, and assistive technology devices. And it is free for United States students and schools who meet qualifications. And it's less than $1 a week for adults that qualify as well. Learning Ally is similar to Bookshare. However, Learning Ally is read by a human voice. With that said, Bookshare uses many different audio voices that are getting, with the way technology is, they get better and better. So they're not this robotic voice anymore. However, Learning Ally has over 80,000 audiobooks that are read by an actual human voice. There is a fee to access it with individual school and county rates, and there are book discounts. To browse some of the audiobooks, and this includes some textbooks as well, you can go to their website, which is linked here, and then Learning Ally provides training for their site. Microsoft has many different tools already embedded into their platform that are highly accessible. And there are many different vision tools, hearing tools, speech tools, mobility tools, and learning tools. On your iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, you have something that's called a Voice Memos app. And these are built into the Apple devices, and it makes it very easy to capture and share classroom lectures or voice note different items that you may need to remember. You can edit the note, you can trim, insert, and replace. You can also capture audio on the go. And then you can send it to your OneDrive or your Google Drive to do even more with it. Read and Write is by TextHelp for Google Chrome, and it's called the Purple Puzzle Piece. And this is its icon. It's a purple piece of a puzzle with an RW on it. It provides speech to text, text to speech, color overlays, and so much more. And so it can adjust the size, it can highlight words. It is a paid-for app, but it is free for teachers on all platforms, including iOS. So if you need individual, group, and or site rates, they're available for multiple users. And so this toolbar that's at the bottom has many different options available to be able to access text, to dictate information, and for the program to read it back to you. There is help available for those that struggle with reading, writing, and understanding math. And so this is called Equatio, and it's by TextHelp. This uses the platform Math with Desmos graphing calculator. A lot of teachers are using the Desmos platform and the graphing calculator and Desmos calculator now, and a lot of testing materials are modeling their calculators after Desmos's calculator. It converts handwriting to text. It also has speech math. So it puts dictated equations and formulas and puts it into written expressions. It does math to speech, which is virtually unheard of these days. Even though it is being worked on and it's becoming more and more accessible, math is still very challenging for audio. And so Equatio makes it much easier to access math if you have a student that struggles to read or have access disabilities. There is also iOS input, which is wonderful as well. For students that have cortical visual impairment, there are many different CVI apps that are either paid or free as well. And these assist students with CVI to use their vision and to help make neural pathways to increase their brain's ability to make sense out of what they are seeing. And it keeps the viewing environment free of clutter with backlighting, high contrasting colors, and has simple movements. There's many different CVI apps that are out there, and if you have a student that has CVI, visual impairment, please reach out because we have lots of different options available. This is a Braille Sense Polaris. It is a 32-cell note taker. It has a Perkins-style keyboard for students that are blind or have very low vision. It also has audio output. It connects to a monitor easily, and that is very helpful for instruction and for the teacher to be able to see what the student is working on. It uses apps such as Microsoft Word, Excel. It sends emails and has a web browser. And the Polaris, the HIMSS Inc. website will provide more training and information. And here is the link for that as well. As you can see on the screen, if you're able to see the Polaris itself, the picture, it does have an LCD screen. So there is a small screen at the top to view what is being inputted as well. There are lots of different accessibility features, whether it be on a Mac, a PC, or a Chromebook, and we have trainings available for all three platforms. For students that are deaf or hard of hearing, we also have trainings on how to sync different audio devices, so hearing aids and cochlear implants directly to the Bluetooth system or to a HAT system. And we're able to help solve some sync concerns if you have them. So if you are blind or have more extensive low vision, there are two different types of screen readers. So we have JAWS, which is just accessible and operational screen reader for a PC, and it is a paid subscription. There is a 40-minute mode that is free, but after the 40-minute mode, you have to restart your whole computer in order to use it again. And then you also have VoiceOver, which is free and accessible on any Mac, iPad, iPhone device, and it comes with a device. It is intuitive and it learns and adapts as you go to your voice. With that being said, we have the West Virginia AEM guidance document currently is being developed and updated, and so that will be out to you as soon as it is completed. Here is my contact information and Miss Leanne Brammer's contact information as well. I also have office hours that are available to anyone that needs a fast fix. And so please feel free to use my office phone number and my email address, and I'll be happy to get back to you as soon as I am able to and during this office hours. As long as I'm not in a training, I'm happy to be there to help. At this time, I believe that Ms. Leanne Brammer is going to present for you.
Thank you, May. We are so happy to have May with us now because we have so many services we can offer through the TAC that she can provide. All of the apps and the Chrome extensions and programs that she just talked about are available through the lending library. So she can not only do trainings, but students can borrow them if they're 14 and up, because most of that equipment was purchased through DRS. But they can borrow it and try it before making a purchase. So we're very excited about the services she's going to be able to offer through the TAC. Okay, I am going to talk now about assistive technology. And, you know, when you think about AIM on the IEP, a lot of times when we look at the kids who use Bookshare and have AIM checked on their IEP, there's a big discrepancy. So that's one of the wanted to make sure we talked with you again about AIM. When it comes to assistive technology, most of you guys know this, so we're going to go through this pretty quickly. But I do want to point out that we do have an assistive technology guidance document. This is a direct link to it, and it's also in a folder in your Teams group. We've created an assistive technology and AIM folder, so there are a lot of resources we're going to be talking about today that will be located there for you to find them easily. This document is also being updated, and hopefully we're going to have some two brand new guidance documents for you with really helpful information in them. There are 3 laws that apply to assistive technology when you work in the school system. Of course, we know IDEA, but there's also Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act and Section 504. All 3 laws have different perspectives, but they can overlap. With IDEA, we know that it requires that each school district ensure that assistive technology devices and services are provided if needed to a student for them to receive FAPE. The IEP team determines whether or not the assistive technology is provided for home use, and it should be documented on the IEP. Assistive technology device, I wanted to go over that definition because honestly, we know that it can be low tech to high tech, but there is also so much technology out there now that's off the shelf that can be used for students. Like May was talking about the voice app that's available on iPhones and Apple Watches. So whether they customize it, it's customized or it's commercially off the shelf, it helps maintain or improve the functional capabilities of a student with a disability. It does not include devices that are medically implanted, like cochlear implants or replacement of such devices. Assistive technology services, I think a lot of time is a piece of the IDEA structure that's overlooked. The service can include the evaluation piece, the purchasing or leasing, the selecting, the coordinating, and definitely training and technical assistance, not only for the student, but for the child's family and definitely for the staff that has to work with that student. And that service can be placed on the IEP as a related service for periodic training, because as students become more familiar with the devices, their skills change, and the skill set of the family and the IEP team needs to change as well. Title II of the ADA is a law that really a lot of people aren't aware of, but I want to mention it because it gives a primary consideration to students and parents in determining which auxiliary aids and services are provided. Public school students are covered whether they're eligible for special education or not under Title II. Auxiliary aids and services needed to provide communication for students with disabilities it has to be as effective as communication for students without disabilities. And for any of you who work with students or know students who use augmentative communication, that's a difficult level to achieve. The big reason that I point this out is that um, in a lot of cases, parents hear about things on TV or from other parents, and they think that that might be appropriate for their child. We're going to be talking about the evaluation process for augmentative communication. And with that, it's not just something that you hear about and try. That's how a lot of assistive technology ends up on the shelf. There needs to be an evaluation process. So for any county who is not doing AAC evaluations, I just want to mention this piece because if a parent, you know, works with an advocate or they find out about this protection under Title II, they can request that you provide a certain assistive technology for communication. If that happens and you don't want to provide what they request, you have to provide something that is at least as effective. Um, so, you know, we just need to make sure that we're always addressing those students who require augmentative communication and not leaving them without some type of system, whether it be low tech or high tech, or and definitely it should be multimodal. I just wanted you to be aware of this law. And then Section 504 provides protections for students with disabilities as far as assistive technology is concerned too. And violations of 504 also constitute violations of Title II. That's where we have some overlap. I wanted to point out this piece of Policy 2419. I always make sure that the speech pathologists are aware of this special consideration, but I want to call it to your attention as well because, you know, I think a lot of times AAC evaluations are not done for students because the SLP doesn't have experience doing them or isn't, you know, familiar with some of the systems and that kind of thing. And that's where the Technical Assistance Center, I think, is going to play an important role in providing support for counties and building that capacity to do these things across the state. Some of you have very well functioning AAC and AT teams, and that's wonderful. We might be asking you guys to do some trainings for us, but for those of you who don't, you know, being able to support this type of evaluation is something the TAC will be able to do. And it says that if they don't have effective means of communications, they have to receive an AAC evaluation. A lot of times what happens too is that, you know, we think, well, maybe they'll, once they're in the structured setting in the school, when they come to school and they're nonverbal, if they're around that language-rich environment, sometimes we think that they will progress and start speaking. But the thing to remember about that is if you think about the language skills of a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old who's coming to school for the first time, if they're not already saying hundreds of words and stringing words together, then they're already way behind. There's already a severe deficit there. So providing AAC for them, the support of it at least gives them a way to practice language, gives them a way to communicate with others, and that piece can always be taken away if the student begins to speak. So just remember that in policy, this is listed as a requirement. District responsibilities, according to IDEA, every school district needs a knowledgeable, supportive network of people working together to help each IEP team choose and provide AT, not only the devices, but the services. And then it goes on to further say that every school district employee who works with students with disabilities, including general ed teachers, has at least an awareness level knowledge about what assistive technology is and what it does. That type of information we can provide for counties as a training through the TAC. And we also have some other information that we can share with you to be able to share with your staff. The district responsibilities also say in IDEA that specific individuals at both the building and district level have been designated with those responsibilities related to assistive technology and are provided the necessary training, resources, and support to carry out those responsibilities. There are actually 12 areas of assistive technology. It's not just computer access and communication. There are actually 12 areas. And this form to the right is a form that's available within the AT guidance document. You can use it for the consideration process, either before or during an IEP. But I just wanted to point out that, you know, you have 12 areas to consider here. And for the most part, at the lending library, at the Technical Assistance Center, we have some type of assistive technology to address the majority of these areas, except general and daily living skills. And we don't have recreation and leisure, seating, positioning and mobility. We have just some chairs for evaluation purposes, but some Rifton chairs. But for the most part, we have technology, assistive technology that will address all those other areas. If you need like general and daily living skills or recreation and leisure, seating and positioning, those kinds of things, WVATS in Morgantown has a great lending library too that we highly encourage you to use. They also have switches and that kind of thing as well. This is an AT fact sheet that's available in your Teams group files. And this is a great piece to be able to give to parents at IEP meetings if you're considering assistive technology for their child and they're not sure about what it is. It's also good for teachers or staff who really aren't sure what assistive technology is. I know, you know, a lot of times when I used to sit on IEP meetings, when we would get to the assistive technology piece, it seemed like, you know, a lot of times they just weren't sure what all was available. So that's why we want you guys to know what all is available and what all is available through the TAC for everybody to be able to try. During the IEP meetings, every student should be considered for AT at every IEP meeting. There's also an AT consideration document. We sent it out, I think, last year before during the pandemic, but it has some really great information on it. If you're having a student, you're considering AT for the first time, or you're really not sure what types of AT are available, this is a great document to look at. It provides sample tasks, standard classroom materials that can be used during that activity, accommodations that can be made, and then assistive technology that might be available. This is just a consideration reference guide. It doesn't mean that you would select your assistive technology through this. What you would do is select your assistive technology area and then know that there is assistive technology available to address those issues. There is the assistive technology guidance document, and it is based on the SET process. You know, I know that a lot of people have a bad taste in their mouth when it comes to assistive technology. And one of the reasons that happens is because you have assistive technology that you've paid a lot of money for that's sitting on shelves and not being used. If you use the SET process when considering assistive technology, I think you'll see a great difference in the not only the support from the whole team for the technology, but the success of the student. The SET framework is a 4-part model, and it promotes collaborative decision making. You know, in a lot of cases, parents aren't always involved in the decision making for AT. You know, everybody who's on the team that works with the student isn't always involved, and everybody that works with that student, everybody who's a part of that student's team should collaborate and work through the consideration process, and as well as the implementation and evaluation of effectiveness. It was developed by Joy Zabala, who's recognized worldwide as a proponent of assistive technology evaluation. And her system, the SET process, is used worldwide. Unfortunately, she passed away this year, but her legacy lives on. Using the SET requires appropriate collaboration and promotes team building by using clearly understood language and valuing input from all perspectives. This takes time, but it's worth the time and effort because all the data is organized and prioritized within the SET framework, and it promotes logical thinking by all team members and can be an effective consensus building tool. As environments and tasks are explored, the links between assessment and intervention become strong and clear, as does the need to develop a system of tools which will enhance the student's ability to address the tasks and build their competency. In addition to developing a system of tools valuable for the student, participation in developing the set increases likelihood that the people supporting the student will see the relevancy of the technology and will be more active and persistent in encouraging and supporting the student's use. The set stands for student, environment, task, and tools. And with this, the student, you have to look at their current abilities. You can look at, through their past IEPs, you can look at a lot of information to gather information about the student. And whatever information you don't have, like if you are trying to do an assistive technology evaluation on a student who's nonverbal and you don't know what his receptive vocabulary or receptive language age is, then you need to do an assessment to figure that out. And you can do several assessments to find the information that you need. The nice thing about the guidance document is it provides you information gathering forms for each of the 12 areas. So it lets you know what information you need to move on to make a decision for assistive technology. And it also looks at functional areas of concern, the special needs that the student has. So you're gathering all the information you can about the student here, which may include assessment, new assessments that you have to do. Then you look at the environment. You look at the activities in the environment, what activities other students can participate in that the student can't, and the current assistive technology that's available. Then the team together looks at the tasks. They look at the tasks that are specific in the environments the student's in, activities the student is expected to do, and what does success look like for that student. Finally, you look at the tools. And during this task piece, you might decide that you want to try some devices based on all the information you've gathered up until then. What happens a lot of times when assistive technology ends up on the shelf is that people jump straight to the tools. They get all the equipment out and they provide it to the student without finding any of this other information. If you find the environment and the activities, then you know where to incorporate the assistive technology. There's a lot of information you're gathering that's pertinent and specific to the student during these other three pieces. So to skip directly here, that's the reason that assistive technology a lot of time fails. Are the tools being considered low tech or high tech? They can be both. You can, you can address issues in a lot of ways. And for students, we like for them to be who are nonverbal. We like for them to be multimodal, just like we are. We have a lot of ways to communicate, and they should too. Tools that are student-centered and task-oriented. They should be if they're not. And training requirements for family, teachers, and student. Those all should be considered as part of the set process. And so, we go through the gathering information, decision-making, trial use, where you gather data to see how the student's doing with that piece of equipment. If it's not effective, then you try another before you ever make a recommendation in selection and inclusion in the IEP. If your county is not observing these four pieces of the process and you're not looking at the whole piece for the student, the whole student, environment, task, and tools, then that's where the Technical Assistance Center can help support you and your team by walking you through the process and providing the knowledge and the mentoring that your team needs to be able to build their own capacity and then be able to function without the support. The AT lending library, as May had said, is due to an agreement between the Division of Rehab Services and the WVDE. We have equipment there that's available for lending for students who are ages 3 to 5 and then 14 and up. And they can be checked out and used during the trial periods. So for any of your students who are needing to try, they've, reached a state stage in their education, like they're 14 years old and they're having difficulty accessing some of their academics, they can borrow equipment from the library. As we obtain more funding, we hope to be able to lend out pieces of the equipment for school age students. I mean, for students who are 6 to 13. And actually, if they're 13, we could also lend them equipment because they'll eventually, turn 14. And we'd like to have that equipment in place for them. One of the reasons we did this proposal was so we would have a library available. In this project was to have a library available. That's what happens a lot of times. Counties or districts might have teams who make recommendations, but then obtaining the assistive technology to try before purchase sometimes is difficult. So not only did we get low-tech to high-tech devices, but we also got test kits for nonverbal students. So there's no reason now why an SLP can't borrow a test and do language evaluations to obtain the necessary background information that they need to determine an appropriate augmentative communication system. We also have reference books. And we have multiple copies of the devices, so we can do hands-on device trainings and invite vendors to do those with us. And we can also do evaluation training. So in order to support and build capacity within your counties, those are some of the things we can offer through the lending library. The AT supports, May mentioned what we can do for AIM. The AT supports include the universal, just like we did for the AIM, but for the targeted, we also are going to have a help desk, AT team training, and training for staff. We can train on specific devices, on programs, and on county requested training. We can do intensive multi-day training for staff. We can do mentoring, and the mentoring is going to be the key piece, because no matter how many trainings we do about, let's say, AAC evaluations, and we've done a lot, it's not until you actually have to do the evaluation that the information becomes really important. And so when that happens for your SLPs or for your teams, we'll be able to mentor and walk them through the process and build their capacity to be able to function independently. We can do mentoring on the evaluation process, the set process, and interventions. Once you receive assistive technology, it's important to know how to implement it and how to embed it throughout the student's day. We can help support with all of that. We can also do personalized trainings based on participants' needs. We can mentor on specific students, not just the process itself, but specific students. And we can also provide intervention assistance. These services are available to all students pre-K through post-graduation. And just some of the AT services we can provide as far as targeted, we can do specific assistive technology device trainings. We can do specific technique trainings like aided language stimulation, partner-assisted scanning, two-switch scanning. We can do communication matrix training. We've been developing communication matrix modules. And for any student who is in the 1% population, or who has autism, or any student who's nonverbal, the communication matrix is a valuable tool that's even recommended by OSEP and some of the national organizations as a good way to evaluate those students who have minimal verbalizations. And it provides, expressive communication levels for us. And it also proves that all of those students, no matter what level they're on at the 7 levels, are communicating. We can do training on comprehensive language evaluation for deaf, hard of hearing students and assistive technology evaluation training. As far as intensive services, we can do coaching or mentoring on specific students throughout any part of the evaluation and intervention process. I do want to put a reminder out there about the AT Supplemental Funding Grant. It's still available. It's based on unanticipated need. So any of your preschoolers who come in with assistive technology needs, and that's definitely the place to start if at all possible, when looking at assistive technology for students. Um, if they come into they're new to your school, then that's unanticipated, and we can provide support and reimbursement for that, for those purchases you have to make for those students. Also, for any transfer students from other counties or other states, we also reimburse for eye gaze systems, because they're extremely expensive, and they're the system of last resort. Honestly, if there's any way to get a student to be able to communicate or access their environment besides eye gaze, we try to do that first. But if that's the only way, then we will provide reimbursement for those systems. We also provide reimbursement for hearing assistive technology systems, or HATs. You heard me mention that a while ago. HATs provide um, augmentation to the ear level hearing amplification that the student already has. So with a student who has cochlear implants or hearing aids, you would assume that they have the technology that they need to access their environment. But if they're, in a noisy classroom, or you've done a functional listening evaluation and determined that they are not receiving all the information, then that's unanticipated, and we support the reimbursement for HAT systems. And then students with expensive AT needs. Um, you know, um, that's another area that will reimburse. With this grant, we have the county purchases the equipment. The AT is incorporated into the IEP. Then the special education director applies for the grant and include invoices in the IEP. And then our team determines if that's a reimbursable unanticipated need. And in most cases, we try to fund as much assistive technology as we can, because we want those students to have access. As a part of the Technical Assistance Center, we are going to be trying to improve transitions and working with transitions from all aspects, from birth to 3 to post-secondary. But part of the project between the Department of Ed and the Division of Rehab Services was to improve the transitions for students, to make every attempt to ensure that they connect with counselors, DRS counselors, who can offer division of rehab services beginning at age 14. And so that's part of what PISNU is going to be talking with you about in just a second. With that, um, we try to make sure, we're going to try to make sure that as students begin their 14 IEP, their age 14 transition IEP, that if they haven't already been considered for assistive technology and AIM, that they should be. It's not too late to do that. And if we can get them using assistive technology from 14 to the time they graduate, then that will give them access to their world, whatever they choose for their post-secondary life. And by working with the rehab counselors, we hope to make sure that every student is considered for AIM and assistive technology. Hopefully before that, but definitely at that meeting, if it's necessary. As May said, not every student needs AIM, and not every student needs assistive technology. We also like to mention too that the birth to 3 transition, we were going to be working with that piece, because a lot of times birth to 3 is purchased equipment that we like to see some, depending on what it is, if it's appropriate for school, for the parents to cooperate with the school and bring that equipment with them. When you're requesting services from the TAC, we are going to have a link, and it'll be posted in your Teams group. We had hoped to have it ready for you this morning, but I wanted to check it with our Office 365 guru one more time, Mark Moore, before we share it with you, because I do not want to be sending you links all the time. So we'll have one link for AIM and one link for AT. There'll be a link post it in your Teams group, and we'll also send you like a one-pager that tells you about specifically the referral process. And I'm probably going to send you a quick 5-minute video that goes along with it in case you need to play it or use it for your staff. You can request mentoring, or you can request training. For either one, for AIM or AT. And so depending on what you answer on the referral, that will determine, which one of us is notified and what happens next. As we get referrals for individual students, we'll send the name and county to DRS because we want to connect them and have their counselors prepared for those students. And if they're not already serving those students who are 14 and up, then we will share the information with the county to be able to contact the DRS counselors. And the DRS counselors will also be notified so they can contact the county or the case manager. As DRS counselors attend transition IEP meetings, they will work with case managers to request evaluations if needed. So, we were trying to figure out how DRS could refer to the tax system, and it only makes sense for them to go through the county because, in some counties, you have your AT process down and your AIM process down, and you don't need tax support. So DRS counselors are going to be encouraged to work with you guys because that's also the collaboration and the relationship we want to see improved. As students prepare for graduations, counties and the TAC will work with DRS counselors to ensure that AT is purchased for the student upon graduation. I mean, that's one big thing to remember when we talk about transition for students is the fact that they need that relationship with DRS to have the assistive technology and the AIM that they'll need when they graduate, and DRS will provide that for them. For any issues that aren't related to AIM and AT, Marianne was concerned that you guys would think you had to use the referral links for all contact with us. Of course, you're still going to contact us through email or call us. If you have any issues, like for Marianne, deaf, hard of hearing, blind, low vision, if you have county issues or questions, please just continue to call us like you always have. But share that link that we're going to share with you with your staff, because we'll be happy to work with individual staff, with IEP teams. We'll be happy to do trainings. And, we want everybody to be able to have access to us that way through the referral system. And then please continue to call me for any speech language impaired and OT and PT questions. We are very pleased to have with us Pisnu Boyam, Acting Director of DRS, and I am going to switch slides very quickly, and we will turn it over to him so that he can tell you about the DRS piece.
Okay. Slide one, please, Leanne. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be with all of you. And again, Leanne, tremendous description of all the services that are being provided to our youth, our students with disability across the state. I'm here to represent the Division of Rehab Services, and I am has been in my acting director position for the last 7 months, and again, the agency have I've done tremendous job partners with State Department of Education, and also at the county levels with all the high schools in all 55 county. As of today, we have 54 school counselors from the agency who are assigned to cover all the high school around the state. And again, we are in a desperate need of all of your assistance. Okay? And Leanne mentioned the team concept. Okay, and at the agency we are totally believe in the team concept. Okay, or about 3-4 years ago, I requested our director, Megan Warren, to change our mission statement. Okay, and now it reads, together we enable and empower individuals with disability to work and live independently by providing individualized services to consumer and employer. And when we say together, I mean the whole community, agency partners, private organizations, consumer groups, people with disability. Over the last 3 decades of my personal experience, I came to the conclusion that, and again, my thought being reinforced by our legislative mandate, the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, and also now by the governor office, the desire for all of us, all the stakeholders in the system, to join together to produce a better system for our consumer. So that's what we're trying to do at DRS. And again, here, like I've been telling people, and I borrow this thing from the GE commercial, we bring good things to life for consumer with disability age 14 and up in all 55 counties. And I truly mean it when we say that. And slide 3, please. Because, we are mandated to serve consumer with disability from 14 and above, okay? What do we do with them? The legislation mandates us to emphasize pre-employment transition services at the age of 14. And that is basically create aspirations, for students in high school, or they may be in middle school, about to transition out of middle school. And after that, we are, focus on, how to help these students, these youth, move on to become productive member of the society. And the recent trend at the federal level has been, well, the system should be producing more quality employment outcome, okay? More STEM opportunities for students with disability or youth with disabilities. And with that being the case, under my direction and what we're trying to do at the agency is to make sure that the student with disabilities, parents, family members, caretakers, and all the pretty much we are stakeholders are aware of what rehab services can assist for them, respect to their the children, the grandchildren, or kids with disabilities. Okay, we want to make sure, and I personally, due to personal experience, want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to recognize the continuum of services, that DS provide for people with disabilities. Yeah. Our mandate starts with, serving people, kids at 14. And where do we end in terms of our service to this individual? Okay, it does not end. We provide, starting with career exploration, then we continue under my directive, trying to expanding our partnership with your high schools, a counselor in terms of developing IEP, and we hope that we can get your assistance on this to truly expand the number of IEP development that jointly coordinated by our staff. We do want all these students who may need additional support from rehab services. Okay, under the federal mandate, we are encouraged, or we are required to supplement, the education system while the students are still in school. We cannot supplant your activity, but we definitely can provide additional assistance, especially to those students who become DRS consumer. So again, the agency is requesting, everyone out there across the 55 county to make sure that that all the resources at DRS, at rehab services, can be used, can be utilized to ensure that, students with disability out there who need additional support can have access, to these services that we definitely want to provide to the students out there. And as I said, our continuum of services continues from student 14 and above, but then it continue when they're ready to transition out high school. What do they want to do? They want to go to vocational training. We do support that. Do they want to go to college, university? We do support that. Or do they want to go directly to employment? Okay, if they're ready to do so, and we fully support that. And even after, getting job out there, well, should they decide career upgrade, career enhancement, want to come back to improve their education level, to be promoted upward, we provide that opportunity also. Again, well, when do we stop providing services to consumers with disability? We do not stop until the individual ready to retire from workforce system. So, and this story I keep repeating. It's like one time, we identified somebody is, close to 90 years old, and well, the person still want to work. Well, the mandate said we still have to provide services as long as the individual is seeking employment and had disability that our agency can assist with. So these continuum services is critical. Therefore, the agency, especially myself, want every student with disability, every parents with kids with disability to fully understand what the system can provide them with. It's a lifetime of service that we are dedicated to this individual. And again, and it should be their choice in terms of whether, like somebody, whether the parent or the kid want to come to DS camp. Slide 4, please. Yeah. And again, like I said, under my leadership, I'm trying to expand our supporting services while students still in high school. Again, we trying to up our tutoring and mentoring services to those students who also are DS consumers. And again, and the opportunity for them to receive support, post secondary education, it's tremendous. So again, we in the past, the agency, worked with thousands and thousands of students with disability. That number had declined significantly. So there's tremendous amount of resources that we can provide to this individual. So I'm requesting assistance from all of you to make sure that students with disability at your school are aware of these continuing support that rehab services can provide to them once they become our consumers. Slide 5, please. Okay. Under my leadership, I start examining, the way in which the agency operate. Okay, and I came up with what I call Step 21, which stands for Systemic Transition Enhancement Project in 2021. Again, as I stated before, and this is something that is expected from the federal level and from from the governor office and from ourselves. The way in which we can provide services to students with disability. As I listened to our presenter this morning, my God, I'm totally impressed with all the things that we're doing for these students. But at the same time, I truly believe that we can do more. And again, all of you aware, a lot of the ability for all of us to serve, our consumer depend on the resources that we have on hand. Okay, at DRS, I'm 100% committed, to fully maximize our fiscal and personal resources, to ensure, all our consumers. And this morning we talk about the students with disability across the state of West Virginia, receive the utmost from the whole system. And, with that being the case, with the project that we joined with State Department of Education, it one step moving in that direction. And there are many, many others that I hope that can be accomplished, in the coming months and years, so that the whole system can truly, enjoy the expertise, the physical resources and personal resources that all together have a team, to serve this individual. Okay, slide 6, please. We like I said, the focus this morning is just for like students 14 and up, but we also committed to serve, adults and others, non-student with disabilities, as I said, and up until they're ready to retire, we provide many, many things to people with disability, including job accommodation. We under the WIOA, it's clear that the legislation prioritize the maintenance of people with disability in their current employment. So we also focus on that. But we don't just try to keep people in job, but also try to enhance their opportunity, and expand their career horizon. We also mandated to serve employer and businesses, to make sure they have the knowledge and know how of what ADA required, and we provide technical system to all these entities. Slide 7, please. There's 20, I think 7 offices, DS offices across 55 county there, and again, we are ready to work with all of you, and again, please do not hesitate to contact. Slide 8, please. Okay, and here's the contact information for those offices, and again, next please, slide 9. Okay, we also have these pathway to the future website that we jointly operate with the State Department of Education. And this pathway website, we started the development about 7+ years ago, and it's a well-recognized website that's being used or being promoted not just by us, but by U.S. Department of Education at their technical assistance centers, across the country. So it's a very informative site. We developing this, my thinking of the need for this pathway was going back 7+ years ago, when the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act became law, and one of the mandates was the requirement for rehab services to provide career exploration opportunity to all, students with disabilities across 55 counties. And again, as all of you aware, how can we actually perform that task. And the only logical explanation is, there had to be some type of self-service out there, and therefore that the creation, the birth of the pathway to the future website. And again, and Leanne, you have a slide that have a list of counselors.
No, it looks like that's the end.
Okay. Is there another like attachment that I sent to you with the list of? Yeah.
I will look just one second.
Okay.
I can make sure that it's posted for the special ed directors, though, if I don't have it.
Okay. But what I have provided to Leanne was a list of our assigned counselor, and I think that 54 of them who assigned it to all high school across 55 county. And the reason I want to share that is because, well, it had the name, the high school names, the cell phone, the office phone of this counselor, the email address. Yes, and that's what you're seeing now. This is as of yesterday, and there are 54 counselors identified here on this list. And this is something that I'm trying to improve upon, and for this short-term need that I truly need, all of your help, as Leanne has said, as we need to increase the number of joint or coordinated development of IEP by, ours, like we have counselor and your school counselor, so that, if it decided that the student, the parents agree that the student should become a DS consumer, if there are additional services and need that cannot be covered by the school, then the rehab can pick up where things can be increased or expand. So, and additionally, like we truly happy with our association with this project with TAC. So the number of students with disability that participate in rehab program also going to be possibly correlated to the amount that we can, support of our joint activity. And again, what I'm asking all of you is this: we are bringing resources to the table. Because we don't have sufficient personnel to cover all the high school sufficiently. I'm trying right now to increase our temp staff, to expand our coverage in all these locations. And again, that may take time. The time that is a very rare commodity for rehab right now. Okay, we have resources that we want to spend, and we want to spend on students with disability, and therefore, our connection with you, requesting our assistant from, your school, high school counselor, your special ed counselor, identify those students, help them become a DS consumer, will greatly benefit, not just rehab services, but, all youth with disability, across the state of West Virginia. So, and that's pretty much my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any question that you may have.
Pisnu, I don't see any questions in the chat box, but people are welcome to unmute your mic if you have a question. And I can also share PISNU's email address if that's okay, so that you
Yes.
can contact him directly if you'd like to. I hope the presentation today showed you just a portion of the services we can offer through the TAC, and also I hope that it pointed out to you the fact that there's no one answer for assistive technology or AIM for any student. You know, each student with an IEP is an individual, and even those students who don't have IEPs but have disabilities have individual specific needs, and we hope we can help you support those. We'll be sending the links to the fillable form that will, be your referral to us for our services. And we'll also share with you this list of DRS counselors and the PowerPoints. And we're available if you need any other support. But please share our information with your counties and have them prepared to reach out to us, because that's why we're there, to help build your capacity. Thanks to May and PISNU for being with us today, and thank all of you. I'm going to stop the recording, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.